Things continue to get better for Manchester City and their fans, ultimately off the field right now, because this has been a very successful week off the field for Manchester City, because this news that I'm about to give you, 3 bits of news I'm about to give you, in fact 2, is very, very serious. 1 is just a little bit heartwarming, but the other 2 is extremely important and very, very serious and exciting for Manchester City. But this news I'm about to give you is following the APT ruling, where Manchester City, or they believe at least, to be victorious in their APT ruling case, which is, great news. I know a lot of rival fans seem to point to the Premier League and their victories in the case. Manchester City have won what they set out to win, ultimately. And I believe that's a victory. That's what you call a victory right now. And I don't see it any other way, ultimately, because the rules are deemed to be unlawful. And now Manchester City have some fantastic news which follows as well. But before I go into that big seismic news, which is fantastic for Manchester City, there is, of course, the sporting director situation for Manchester City to focus on right now, with the announcement that Txiki Begiristain, apologies, I can't help but say Begiristain. Every time I say Txiki, it's immediately followed by the word Begiristain. I can't get it right. I just can't help it. I apologise, Txiki. I love you. You're an absolute legend at the club for signing the players that you've signed, but I can't help but say Begiristain. I'm so sorry. Do apologise for that. But Txiki Begiristain, what a fantastic man. He's on his way out. This was announced here on Typical City. Well, it wasn't me who broke the news, was it? But ultimately, I told you here on Typical City a couple of days ago, went into the possible replacements for Txiki. Hugo Viana was one of them, and Manchester City are set to announce that this is as of today, at least. Fabrizio Romano has officially announced that Hugo Viana is set to join Manchester City in 2025. The club themselves have yet to announce this information, and this is purely down to the fact that the club wants to celebrate Txiki's achievements, be respectful to the man rather than talking about the potential replacements for Txiki before announcing he's even leaving. Let's talk about the celebration of his achievements first. The fact that he's leaving, of course, and I think that's incredibly respectful of the club. Obviously, this news has come out, so I mean, Fabrizio Romano has announced that, but I think the fans needed to know that. The idea of Txiki leaving, rumours saying Pep's not extending his contract, which I don't believe to be true. I believe that, with the rumours I'm hearing at least, that he's going to extend his contract for 2 more years, which would be absolutely tear-inducing news for the rival fans, their fuzzy little heads will explode if Pep extends, because they're just waiting for him to piss off. That's all they want, was piss off, Pep. Sick of bloody losing to you. It's not about the money for them deep down, is it? It's not about the 115 deep down. They know deep down he's a footballing god, and they can't handle it, and they won't dare admit it. So they're just quietly waiting for his departure. But 2 more year extension for Pep Guardiola, that doesn't sound like a man who's leaving or jumping a sinking ship. Or Manchester City, the idea that we're bringing in a new sporting director. They all jumped on the idea that Txiki's leaving, so therefore that's a sinking ship. Off to League 2 they go. Relegation thanks to the 115. And, of course, following that, Hugo Viana coming in. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would a person join a sinking ship? Why would Pep extend his contract by 2 years when the club is he ready to manage in League 2? Apparently so. Why would the club expand their stadium to 60,000 plus capacity when we're going to be playing in League 2? Something doesn't quite add up here. Something doesn't quite add up. Maybe City are pretty confident about the 115, and I'm, as a result, very, very confident, because the actions off the pitch for Manchester City suggest to me that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. And I mean, rival fans won't like to hear that, but ultimately, it's an exciting time for Manchester City, and the juggernaut continues to move forward with Hugo Viana sat in the sporting director's seat, and I'm excited to see what he can do. He brings a lot of experience with him, obviously comparing the spending power of Manchester City and what Txiki therefore had compared to Sporting Lisbon, who averaged around 30 to 40 millions per year on a transfer window, there or thereabouts. It's not a really fair comparison, but you can compare how well he's done with a much smaller budget at Sporting Lisbon. You look at the likes of Victor Gyökeres, for example, the big 26-year-old Swedish blonde centre-forward who's very reminiscent of Erling Haaland. Obviously, he's not quite the same level of finisher, but a very, very skillful centre-forward that knows where the back of the net is. Don't let me undermine his finishing ability, because the guy's got 12 goals, 3 assists in 11 games so far this season, signed from Coventry for 24 million, which is a fantastic bit of business. Hugo clearly understands the English game. Obviously, he played once upon a time for Newcastle, but we're not worried about him lacing his boots for Manchester City. Do you know what I mean? He knows the business side of it, the player, the scouting side of it for the English game as well, which is great news. I'm really, really excited to see what he can bring. He's young as well, 41 years old. He's going to be fresh. And I think that's another chapter in Manchester City's recent history of just growth, exponential growth for Manchester City to continue going through the levels of growth. And who knows where we can go. If he shakes the hand with Pep Guardiola and says 2 more years of Pep alongside Hugo Viana, these two could strike up a partnership that's equal or maybe even better than Txiki. Who knows? Because this guy's got fresh, young ability that he's shown in the European League or in Premier League in Portugal, at least, with Sporting Lisbon. I'm excited. We have to wait and see. We have to give him time. I think these sort of positions, they're not someone you can just look at and go, right, he's to blame because we see him on the pitch. He's behind the scenes. He's behind the curtain, isn't he, Hugo? He does all his works off the pitch. You know, he's a sporting director. So that position requires at least 2 years to really make a judgment, you know, a couple of transfer windows to really see what he's going to achieve at this football club. But I'm excited. Now, we move on to the other news, which is kind of related to the APT case. And this is the seismic news for me and something Manchester City and the fans should definitely get excited about. And it revolves around Atletico Madrid. And I hear you already like, what the fuck are you talking about Atletico Madrid for? Well, it's the sponsorship deals that they've got associated with them right now. Riyadh Air, for example, they're currently the sponsors on their shirt sponsors for Atletico Madrid, receiving a huge amount of money for that, similar to the Etihad shirt sponsors. And now they're moving into stadium naming rights. And this news comes from Lucas Bazak, terrible. I don't know how that's pronounced, but I'll do my best. Let's call him Lucas. Lucas says Riyadh Air will acquire the naming rights to the Metropolitano Stadium. The Saudi carrier is preparing to replace the Civitas brand as a sponsor at least until 2033. According to Spanish media, the value of the entire contract is between 250 million euros to 300 million euros, or roughly around 27 to 33 million euros per year. Obviously, he goes on to mention the fact that they're already the shirt sponsor, and yeah, I hear you. What are you talking about that for? What's that got to do with Manchester City? Well, it's because of the APT case and the fact that the whole ruling of that case was for Manchester City to gain access to the data bank that the Premier League have kept away from all the Premier League clubs that contain all this valuable information that the Premier League have manufactured to suggest what is fair market value. How does the upcoming deal, the new deal that's going to be struck with the Etihad Airways for the new name, for the continuation of the naming rights and the continuation of the shirt sponsorship, which is going to be more in value, potentially doubled in value of what it currently was. And just to give you a reference, in 2023, as of the records in 2023, the financial records in 2023, the Etihad was worth 15 million per year. So you look at this new deal between Atletico Madrid and Riyadh Air for their naming rights, which could equate to roughly around 33 million euros per year, nearly double what we're receiving. So there's your new market value right there, created by Riyadh Air and Atletico Madrid, who have paved the way for Manchester City to say and point at that deal and go, well, if their deal's worth that, our deal is worth this. You know, Riyadh Air, by the way, do you want to know how old they are? They were established in March 2023. They're barely a year old and they are coming out with deals like this. And it's because of the might of the infamous Gulf region that the Premier League hate and loathe. All of that money coming from that part of the world, the Middle Eastern money, and thank the lords of that part of the world, thank you so much for picking Manchester City to spend your money on. And Newcastle fans will be doing exactly the same thing. Atletico Madrid will be doing exactly the same thing, thanking you from turning us from the have-nots to the haves. Because once upon a time, Manchester United, Arsenal and Liverpool, they used to be the haves. And now I would argue that they're not really the have-nots because there are so many levels below United, Liverpool and Arsenal, yet they act so poor. You know, like, oh, we can't compete with Manchester City and their money. So they've brought in these rules of which is all surrounding the market value. When these guys come in like this, they dictate the market value. If it's just one club doing it, just think about it. What becomes the market value? If 10 airlines are suddenly given birth to and they start spending money left, right and centre on football clubs, that therefore becomes the market value. And Manchester City and Atletico Madrid and Newcastle, we can all point to each other and say, well, he's spending that, he's spending that, he's spending that. Let's get no sexism on this channel. She's spending that. You know what I mean? You can do whatever you want once the market value becomes that and it's dictated by these guys. And who gets left behind? The American owners that are trying to do what they're doing in the Premier League and trying to restrain Manchester City and Atletico Madrid, which is obviously nothing to do with them and not the same league, is it? But ultimately, Newcastle is what the focus was, to try and prevent another City situation where just a football club just becomes from a middling average football club to a world-class, world-beating, treble-winning, 4 in a row winning, you name it, left, right and centre, 100-point Erling Haaland signing football club. Do you know what I mean? The absolute phenom, juggernaut football club that we are continues to chug along that train. So this is continuing to be a fantastic week for Manchester City, off the field in particular. Now, the third bit of news I want to give you is a little bit more heartwarming. Erling Haaland is going to have a baby. He's going to have a baby. Oh, I'm excited for him. As a father of my own, buzzing. Absolutely buzzing for him. He announced it yesterday in his in the Norway game, where he became the record goal scorer for that country as well. So what a fantastic time it is to be Erling Haaland right now. Imagine being Erling Haaland. How bloody brilliant would it be to just be Erling Haaland, even for a day, mate? I'd pay a lot of money just to be Erling Haaland for a day. It would be so good. Be so good. But yeah, a fantastic news. And obviously there must be fathers and mothers watching right now, and I'm sure you all understand the importance of having a child brought into your life. It turns you, it changes you, and it makes you a much better person. Hopefully we can see Erling Haaland take that energy and put it onto the football pitch and be even better. Exciting times, and congratulations to Erling Haaland. But this is a fantastic week for Manchester City, off the field in particular. Let's transfer this fantastic news onto the pitch now and continue with our successful times as Manchester City with 4 in a row. Let's go for 5. Get in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on this news, Blues. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.